Gentlemen, it's great to see you again, Jamie. And it's an honor to meet you, sir.
Yep.
When people play the game, who should play you in a movie? Did you have any idea it would be Jamie Dornan?
I didn't. I think they said it was Taron Egerton.
That's right, he was originally cast.
And in my head, I mean, I've never met him, but I think he didn't look quite haggard or broken.
Oh, great.
So when he said Jamie, I thought, yeah. No, I'd seen him in The Fall, and I kind of knew him from that. So when he said, you know, Jamie, I was delighted. You know, what's the grumble about?
When I was asked for an instant reaction as we left the screening last night, people said, Dave, what'd you think? And I said, powerful. The one word to use to describe it. Did it feel that way? Did it feel emotionally intense as you were playing Marie?
Yeah, daily. That was the experience. Was oh my goodness, this is putting us through it. We were filming in Jordan for the first part of the movie, depicting many conflict zones that Marie Colvin, the war correspondent whom I play, covered: Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Sri Lanka, and Syria. And Matt, our director, he's a documentary maker by background, most of the background cast were refugees or displaced people from those conflict regions. So when we came, for instance, to the Syria scenes, you know, which is great to put Syria at the center of a movie again, you know, especially as it's a conflict that's been going on and some people have waned in their interest. These were Syrians who had lived through what we were describing, and so a lot of the time what we're seeing on film is their truth and their real experiences, and often, you know, grief would suddenly well up at times that perhaps they weren't, I'm sure they weren't expecting. They're sometimes not expecting how authentic an experience a movie set can give, that sometimes it takes them right back to something that they lived. And I mean, I was in tears frequently, but obviously I then had to hold that back because I think Marie Colvin was a tougher person than me. So, you know, as her, I had to withhold. But I was convinced after living those experiences that however much her professionalism protected her to a degree, there is no way you can see those things without it going somewhere.
What was it like for you emotionally to play this character?
It was certainly very heavy on emotion levels. We shot the whole thing in Jordan, all the war stuff, and a lot of our extras and our officers and stuff in the movie are really displaced people from a lot of these war-torn places, like Syrians, and, who had been at Homs and were in Homs when Marie died and when Paul had an awful wound to his leg. So it was very real for them, and we'd have moments where these guys who are playing these, you know, FSA officers with us would just break down and start heaving, crying.
I think at the graveside as well, wasn't it?
At the graveside as well, when, you know, the burial site, and these Iraqi women just lost it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
really lost it, and you know, it was a very cathartic film to shoot this. I have to say, it was a lot of emotional days.
How long did it take you to get ready for this role? I've read in some of the interviews you've done, and I just wanted us to talk, because I read that you studied film. The one thing that everybody said is that the way she talks, you really match that. Her mannerisms. How long did it take for you to get that?
I probably was, I mean, from the time that Matt and I, we decided to collaborate, and he offered me the role in maybe April time of 2017, and then we started shooting in November. Those months were spent, apart from the other job I had to complete, but they were. My brain was on Marie, watching her, listening to her. I had her in my ear all the time. I worked with a dialect coach, and then the energy, finding that drive, finding the way that she said, you know, even the way she said war. You know that this is a person who knows war, and it's just different. I say war. It's so short. She says war. I mean, you know that's someone who understands her subject.
What was the drive when you first met Marie? Was she always feisty and just full of just the drive, her persistence, very strong character? Was she like that all the time?
She was. I mean, we do a job. We were in Libya for like 8 months or something, right from the beginning. We went right through it. And neither of us wanted to leave until the end. Then Gaddafi died. I mean, we got out after 8 months. We'd been out once before. And within a week, the phone's going, it's Marie going, Paul, get on the picture desk, we need to get to Syria. So we had about a week off, and for the next month we pushed, and we were out. So she, you know, just restless, come back, do a few parties, blow out. But then, you know, the phone had gone. It was like, we've got to get back. And so she was driven by that. You know, life got in the way of the job with Marie.
Tell me, you mentioned the Gaddafi, and it's shown in the film. What was that like, to be at that?
That was kind of weird, because I haven't done that the whole summer in Libya doing that. You know, the Misratans always said to me, when we catch him, he's not going to stand trial. You know, they were quite adamant he wasn't going to stand there and do speeches for the next 6 years. So when they caught him, he was dead an hour later.
But were you with Marie when she interviewed him?
No.
Just a little bit of
we just had to
license.
squeeze,
Gotcha.
compress things in, because, you know, it was so, you know, Matt said, you know, it's so vast that we do have to compress stories, which is, you know, when I saw it happening, it was like, you'd need 6 movies to get it all in.
Let's talk about her drive, her persistence, her feistiness. She, you know, there were points that people would just say, I don't want to do this job anymore.
Yeah.
She would just love doing this.
You know, it's complicated. There's a huge adrenaline buzz from being there. You feel so alive. The stakes are, you know, it's a high stakes game. The stakes are life and death. You feel more alive than you probably ever felt when you're at home. There was something I read, and it said, you know, when you're in a war zone, death is close, fear is everywhere, love seems urgent. You know, and I think and it's interesting that they put love in there, because there's a romance to being close to death, I suppose. And she's not the first person to feel that, but there's a purpose. She knows who she is. She's good at it. She's admired. She's celebrated. She's got tremendous empathy. She manages to get closer than others to the story. She gets people to trust her. There's a whole vividness to her life that I think when she was back on dry land at home, it could feel oddly flat. And her, you know, marriages were struggling. She had great female friends, but you know, she was crap at doing her receipts and filing her expenses and opening her bills and getting a mortgage, and you know, it felt messy and incomplete, I think, at home.
Here's a question for you both. Jamie, I'll start with you. What do you hope people take away from this movie?
It's tricky, isn't it? I sort of never like to project too much on how you want people to feel at the end of a movie, but I guess a reason for making it and why it feels important is that if it can continue to spread the message and open people's eyes to the atrocities that these conflicts have on the civilians in these places, then that's only a good thing, you know.
I completely agree with that, by the way. You live this. Seeing this play out on the big screen, the same question for you, though, is what do you hope people take away?
I mean, what Jamie just said, really, you know, every single person who watches it is going to be introduced to something that maybe they don't know a lot about. And also, in this day of an era of fake news, you know, it's kind of also nice to show the world that actually it's not all just people sitting in basements on Twitter. You know, there are people out there who will go to extreme lengths to get you reality. So when people brush a story off as fake news, it's a bit like, ouch. So I hope this kind of shows people a bit more about what people go through.